guests at the Los Angeles Cecil Hotel started to complain that the hotel's water has a strange taste, is discoloured, and that the water pressure is low. Maintenance worker Santiago Lopez is sent to the rooftop water tanks to investigate the problem. There are 4 tanks that sit atop the Cecil's roof. Lopez heads to the top floor. A small staircase leads him to a locked door. He walks out onto the rooftop and heads to the water tanks. After climbing the ladder, he opens the hatch and peers inside. To his horror, he sees a female body in the water and what appears to be clothing. The police are called. This is a mysterious case of Elisa Lam. Elisa Lam, the 21-year-old daughter of David and Yana Lam, Hong Kong immigrants who settled in Canada and owned a restaurant in Burnaby. Elisa was a student at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver and had a part-time retail job. She described herself as outgoing, forthright and confident. She'd been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression and was on prescribed medications to treat her disorders. Bipolar is a mood disorder that typically means that a person experiences bouts of elation or depression. Elisa used social media to document her struggles with her illnesses, along with her love of fashion. On the 7th of January 2013, Elisa posted on her Tumblr that she'd booked flights to Vancouver and San Diego. Elisa had planned a lone trip. She dubbed it her West Coast tour. She intended to visit Vancouver, Los Angeles, San Diego, Santa Cruz, then San Francisco. 18th of January, Elisa arrives in Vancouver. She meets up with friends, but feels down when a guy she likes rejects her. 22nd of January, Elisa heads to the airport. After getting lost, she misses a connecting flight and ends up having to sleep at the airport. Once in San Diego, Elisa posts her itinerary that includes a trip to San Diego Zoo, SeaWorld, whale watching and a museum visit. She then heads to Los Angeles. She arrives in LA on the 26th of January. The following day, she posts to her Tumblr that she's going out and hopes no creepers come near her. This is followed by a post that she lost her cell phone, a BlackBerry that she'd in fact borrowed. According to a previous blog post, Elisa had misplaced her own cell phone. After 2 days, she books herself into the Cecil Hotel. She books a budget, hostel-style shared room for 3 days. Elisa updates her Tumblr with a post that confirms she's at the Cecil Hotel. She comments on the Art Deco architecture and the gaudiness of the place. The Cecil Hotel, now rebranded as the Stay on Main, is located in downtown Los Angeles. It sits in an area close to the notorious Skid Row, an area that attracts transients and the homeless. Although the area around the Cecil is seeing improvements, it is still associated with crime. After 2 nights in the hotel, fellow roommates complain to staff that Elisa is behaving strangely. The roommates were never named or identified by the hotel, so this information is difficult to confirm. Elisa is moved to a single room on the 4th floor. She then posted this image to Tumblr. Elisa had checked in with her family regularly during her travels. However, her parents became concerned when they didn't hear from her. They called Los Angeles police to report Elisa missing. According to police reports, Elisa was scheduled to check out by midday on the 31st of January, but had failed to do so. The owner of a nearby bookstore confirms she spoke to Elisa earlier that day. She'd purchased gifts for her family. She recounts Elisa being upbeat and was deliberating which items would not be too heavy to travel with. Aside from a confirmed sighting of Elisa in the lobby and the lift of the hotel, no one can vouch for her whereabouts that day. This is where the mystery begins. When officers arrive at the hotel, they find her belongings are still at the hotel. They search, but there is no sign of her. Although the search efforts were limited due to the scale of the hotel, officers are concerned for Elisa's welfare. As a young female travelling alone, they fear the worst. Elisa's concerned parents fly out to Los Angeles to join in with the search for their daughter. On the 6th of February, Los Angeles police hold a press conference to publicise Elisa's disappearance and distribute posters. A week later, they released details of the last known sighting of Elisa. Grainy footage of Elisa entering the hotel's lift, acting strangely, then leaving. The lift was stationed on the 14th floor. Elisa's room was located on the 4th floor. It's baffling to everyone why is she there, and why she appears to be acting so strangely. The timestamps are ineligible, but the footage was from around midnight, making it the 1st of February. Nearly 3 weeks pass, and this is when hotel guests begin complaining that the tap water is discoloured, has a strange taste, and the water is suffering from low pressure. This is when the hotel's maintenance worker finds Elisa's decomposing body. The police arrive and the fire department, who are tasked with removing Elisa's body from the tank. They have to drain the tank and cut a hole to remove Elisa's body. The police presence on the rooftop attracts the media, who begin to report on the grisly find. Hotel guests are mortified to find they have ingested the hotel's tainted water. City officials immediately test the water. Fortunately, no hazardous bacteria is found, and the water supply is flushed and treated. Guests at the hotel are forced to sign a disclaimer regarding use of the water. The Cecil's history is a dark one. Built in the 1920s by William Banks Hanna, it cost $1 million to build and was designed with opulent decor to appeal to wealthy travellers. Several years into opening, the Great Depression hit the business hard. Despite a short revival in the 1940s, the transient population that inhabited the local area meant the hotel became synonymous with crime and prostitution. With 700 rooms, it has seen an array of characters enter its doors. The most infamous being serial killer Richard Ramirez. His spree saw him murder 13 people, commit numerous burglaries, and attempt to kill 5 more people during 1985. He was nicknamed the Night Stalker by the press because of the fear he caused amongst the residents of Los Angeles. It was a hot summer and people were scared to leave their windows open. He would drive around suburban areas in the middle of the night, attacking victims in their own home. Ramirez was a dangerous individual. He didn't stay at the Cecil for more than a few weeks, but with a number of waifs and strays in the hotel, Ramirez evaded the police. He was caught the same year and sentenced to death. Room 1419 on the 14th floor is the room he is said to have stayed in, attracting many dark tourists to the Cecil. In 1991, Australian serial killer Jack Unterweger stayed at the Cecil Hotel. Unterweger had 16 convictions, mainly for violently assaulting prostitutes, before he went on to murder an 18-year-old girl with her own bra. He was jailed for his crimes, and during his time inside, began to publish poetry, then an autobiography. He won over the public, blaming his crimes on the lack of a mother growing up. He served 15 years in prison and was released as a reformed citizen. He would be offered an opportunity to travel to Los Angeles and report on the challenging lives of the prostitutes in the Skid Row area. Unfortunately, Unterweger wasn't the reformed citizen he'd claimed to be, and while staying at the Cecil Hotel, could not quell his appetite and murdered the very women he was sent to investigate. He was so brazen that he was accompanying the police on ride-alongs for his research. Unterweger fled the Cecil and was eventually apprehended. When sentenced for his crimes, he hung himself with the very same distinctive ligature style they'd used on his victims. Elisa Lam's legacy now sits within the walls of the Cecil's dark past. And here begins the mystery of Elisa Lam. The last footage. You see Elisa enter the lift on the 14th floor. This is determined by the location of a mirror adjacent to the lift door and the pattern of numbers on the lift panel that illuminate. The footage is taken from around midnight on January the 31st via a CCTV camera located in the lift. This is 12 hours after Elisa should have checked out. What was Elisa doing during this time? Note, she has no purse or luggage with her. There are no amenities on this floor. Was Elisa with another person during this time? She enters the lift and presses all the middle buttons, followed by the elevator hold button. As she stands and waits, presumably for the doors to close, her demeanour is calm. She then leans out of the elevator, looks both ways and steps back. This is much like a child would behave as if playing hide and seek. She steps to the side, then the corner. Again, she's exhibiting childlike behaviour. Notice her hands clasped together. Her body language is not expressing distress. She tentatively steps out the doorway and looks out. It's as if she's waiting playfully for someone to follow. She gently steps out again. This resembles a childlike stance. She isn't acting like someone who is scared or manic. She even jumps. Then it appears she's looking at her reflection in the mirror and adjusting her hair, although this cannot be confirmed as she is out of view. Again, she presses the middle buttons rapidly. Without seeing her facial reactions, this could be done in a playful, childlike way. She puts her hair behind her ears and exits the elevator. Her focus is directed to the right of the door. She begins to gesticulate with her arms. Her fingers are spread. This is a very exaggerated movement. It appears that she's engaging with someone else out of view of the elevator. She bends her fingers back as if overemphasizing a point. She uses very exaggerated movements, like a child when excited. Then she disappears from view to the left of the door. The lift hold button has an estimated hold time of 2 minutes. So we're able to determine the timescale approximately because the video timestamps were not visible. The layout of the hotel shows that there are rooms in both directions of the lifts, and in the direction Elisa is gesticulating are the doors to the restrooms. Elisa's fate from this moment is sealed. Shortly after the footage was filmed, her body was found on the hotel's roof in a water tank, but the mystery deepens. There are 4 routes to the rooftop. The most accessible is found on the 15th floor. A single flight of stairs leads to a locked and alarmed door. The other 3 are accessed via windows that lead directly onto the fire escapes located on the hotel exterior walls and involve a careful climb up a ladder attached to the external wall of the hotel and is fully exposed. There are 2 routes to access the tanks. One involves a small ladder that leads to the platform the tanks sit on. Elisa would have had to negotiate a maze of pipes that run around the base of the tanks to access the ladder and then open the hatch, climb up and get in. The second route involved climbing a ladder affixed to a wall and then walking across the roof and jumping down onto the tanks. To the casual observer, both routes seem to suggest that some kind of minor injury or abrasion would occur if taking either route, considering Elisa was wearing shorts and sandals. The elevator footage was timed at around midnight, saying that from this point Elisa made her way to the roof. Questions that come to mind are, wouldn't it be extremely difficult to find her way to the rooftop, scale a ladder in the dark, whilst wearing sandals, and remove all her clothes? The temperature that evening was 53 degrees Fahrenheit with clear skies. At 5'4" and 115 pounds, was she able to open the 20-pound hatch to the tank and get in? The coroner report stated her death was accidental drowning, with bipolar as a contributing factor. Her body had no signs of physical trauma. There was no evidence of foul play. There were signs of an anal prolapse, but her body was in water for an extended period. This was concluded to be a post-mortem reaction. A full rape kit was taken for evidential purposes, but not processed. Blood tests concluded trace amounts of her prescribed medications were present and no alcohol or illicit drugs were detected. Elisa's hotel card was found in the pocket of her hooded jacket, seen on the elevator video, along with her watch. The sandals were found, along with a size small women's lace trim panties, but no bra, a pair of men's shorts, size medium, and a green t-shirt, size large, with the logo of a beer company on it. It wasn't confirmed or deemed relevant to determine if these were Elisa's clothes. In fact, in a blog post, Elisa had bemoaned her fat ankles and how she did not want them exposed, although the branding of the t-shirt relates to a Canadian beer company. The clothes were also covered in a white sand-like material. It is not clear if this was a result of the extraction process. If already present, it could suggest Elisa had climbed down onto the tank from the central tower and the debris was collected as the clothes scraped the wall. The coroner only had the evidence provided to base a decision. Even though it seemed a far-fetched conclusion, it was not impossible for Elisa to have succumbed this way. The case gets closed, but people are still left with so many questions. How did a high occupancy hotel not have any sightings of apparently manic Elisa that day? The only person who claims to have spoken to her that day was the bookstore owner. Elisa's sister informed the coroner she'd never shown suicidal ideations before or manic episodes. There is a huge chunk of time not accounted for, or has information been purposely withheld by the investigators? What caused Elisa to miss her midday checkout? She'd been to the bookstore to buy gifts. She was clearly planning to leave. Elisa's blog postings would show a pattern of down days and good days. The witness accounts show she was having a good day. Had she not left the building that day, then the narrative to depressive episode would have been more viable. Her belongings had been moved to the basement by hotel staff for safekeeping when she'd failed to check out. Why would Elisa be on the 14th floor when her room was on the 4th? The hotel's amenities were all on the ground floor. The facts just don't add up. Had Elisa been with someone that day? In a previous Tumblr post, she'd mentioned how she'd declared attraction to a guy she'd just met. Had she met someone whilst out in the city that morning and arranged to meet up? It could explain her not checking out if she was enjoying a liaison with someone. It could explain why she was on the top floor and not the 4th floor, and could further explain how her body was found in a tank of water. Could she have been drowned elsewhere and placed in the tank with the clothes, or was this just an unfortunate accident fueled by mania? There were unconfirmed rumours that she was seen entering the lobby with 2 men that day. She had posted about meetups on her travels, a Tumblr blog. Was she inviting trouble? Hotel staff members were questioned about her disappearance. Police suspected that a staff member with key access to the rooftop could have led Elisa to her death. It was rumoured that hotel staff used the rooftop for cigarette breaks. The hotel had rooms, hostel rooms and residences spread over 14 floors, with guests from all over the world, making a potential perpetrator virtually undetectable. Elisa's parents filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the hotel. However, the Los Angeles Superior Court Judge Howard Halm deemed the hotel not negligent because they could not have done anything to premeditate such an event occurring. Elisa had ventured to an area of the hotel that was secured to prevent guests accessing it, so therefore her death was deemed unforeseeable. The hotel referenced the claim that Elisa was moved to a lone room because of her odd behaviour as their defence. Along with the elevator footage, they had a strong case to prove Elisa's sanity was failing. The hotel had been plagued with poor reviews even before Elisa's death. A travel blogger who visited the hotel was shocked to find a homeless man raiding a dustbin undetected on the hotel floor. Was the hotel trying to cover up a more sinister occurrence? Elisa's death just racks up more questions than answers and has been the topic of relentless conspiracies. Was she possessed by an evil spirit? The movie Dark Water features a plot in which a girl succumbs to her death by climbing in a water tank. Her spirit haunts an apartment building and the residents drink the tainted water. Its plot is eerily similar to Elisa's death. With hotel history like the Cecils, the place has been rife with stories of the paranormal. Was she playing the elevator game? An urban legend that if you press repeated buttons on the elevator and press them before they get to the right floor, that somehow you can open a portal to another dimension of evil. The tuberculosis connection. The kit produced to test for tuberculosis is called the Lam ELISA test. Is this a weird coincidence? At the time of Elisa's death, this test was associated with an outbreak of tuberculosis in the Skid Row area near the hotel. Most outlandish, Elisa was murdered by the spirit of serial killer Ramirez. He was known for his love of all things satanic. People have claimed to have seen his face appear in the elevator footage. The Drive connection. Elisa had travelled to the Cecil Hotel. What is interesting is that the main movie shooting locations were in the close vicinity of the Cecil. The Park Plaza Hotel is located approximately 2 miles away. The MacArthur Park, Staples Centre, the Big Six Market, all key locations in the movie. But the weird twist, one of the most poignant scenes in the movie was the elevator scene in which the main characters embrace. Could Elisa have found someone to recreate that moment with? It was American Horror Story creator Ryan Murphy who would hint that Elisa Lam's demise was the inspiration for his season Hotel. In fact, the set of the hotel eerily mirrored the Cecil's grand entrance, and the storyline included the spirits of famous murderers being able to haunt the hotel. Murphy was able to capture the essence of the Cecil being a place for the waifs and strays of society. Fortunately, Murphy did not make any reference to Elisa's death in the TV show. Elisa's death is still shrouded in mystery. Even though her posts were at times melancholy, Elisa seemed to be well adjusted with her medication regime and was well enough to travel alone. She'd stayed in Vancouver without raising concerns amongst friends. She'd met up with them, then travelled to San Diego, visited tourist destinations, kept in touch with her family for it all to come to an end in a water tank at a dingy hotel. There is a plethora of videos investigating Elisa's death, but none have been able to find any answers. The elevator footage was clearly the most perplexing of this case. But what I find even stranger is the fact this footage was released unedited. It made no sense to the investigation and was no benefit as it generated nothing but viral attention and not leads. The police were aware that Elisa had mental health issues, and by releasing the footage, it seemed to provide the narrative that she was manic before her body was even found in a strange location. All the public needed to see was a few seconds of Elisa to provide a visual prompt. Even worse was the impact on Elisa's family having to see her portrayed in such a way. This in itself is the biggest conspiracy. It's the 8th anniversary of Elisa's death and still no new information has come to light. The Cecil Hotel has now closed to supposedly make way for a redevelopment of apartments. What do you think happened to Elisa? Is there more information to be found, or is this case closed?